Hello and welcome to the wonderful Zelda Hall, who is with me today all the way from Amsterdam. I'm so happy to be introducing this soulful woman, which I've just worked out that I've known for 27 years, nearly 30 years of this ongoing friendship, despite living opposite parts of the world. And I just want to say a little something about Zelda before we get into our interview questions. Zelda, I just want to say, is an incredibly passionate person, and she puts her heart and soul in whatever she does. She loves supporting people to express themselves fully, to find meaning in their lives, and to follow their path of soul, as indeed she has. She's been practicing as a psychotherapist for over 35 years and works with individuals and relationship counselling and with people all over the world through her practice in Amsterdam and online. And she also gives workshops on the themes of finding and following the path of soul, rebalancing masculine and feminine in our lives and in the world. And her passion is about supporting the ongoing shift that's happening in the world from the old paradigm of dominate, extract, and exploit to a new paradigm of interconnectedness and partnership, where we are balancing the divine feminine and divine masculine in order to co-create a sustainable way of being on this planet. It's indeed a pleasure to have you, Zelda, here. And I know that our many conversations have been very nourishing on the deep feminine, despite living opposite ends of the earth. And it's exciting that we are going to hopefully see how things go, do a workshop in Bali next year, 2019. So welcome, Zelda, and so lovely to have you here.
And it's lovely to be here, although I'm in my own house. It's lovely to be meeting you in this context and doing this together. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And it's amazing that we can do this, that we're opposite ends of the world, yes, and we can have this conversation. So yes, Zelda,
the technological developments that allow that are extraordinary. Yes.
Incredible, I know. So knowing that you are a soulful woman, I want to start with asking you, what does being a soulful woman mean to you?
Well, I think I have to answer that question with I feel I work a lot, as you just said, with the finding the path of soul. And for me, my soul contract of being on earth at this moment is about being a woman on earth at this moment in a time that there's so much changing in relation to how men and women relate to each other, but how we as humanity relate to the world, to the planet. So being a soulful woman for me is about expressing that my soul contract fully, trying to follow that as much as I can, and looking for being open to signals in the form of dreams or other kinds of information as to how to develop further.
That kind of leads into that next question. How is being a soulful woman lived or expressed in your life? Is it through listening to your dreams and your night dreams as well as your daydreams? How do you express your soulfulness?
Well, I think a lot, my soulfulness is expressed a lot in my work, although even to use the word work doesn't really, it doesn't really cover it. I don't mean work in the sense necessarily of my practice, going to the practice every day and working with clients, but also the work of being in the way I live my life in all aspects. As you just mentioned again, like being aware in the mornings, recording my dreams, or writing up what I've dreamed for the night and seeing what it brings me in information for the next day. Being mindful of the fact that all my actions, as with all of us, of course, all my actions reverberate through my environment. Even the attitude, my actions and attitudes are constantly being like dropping a stone in a pond, sending ripples out as are everybody else's, and being aware of, trying to be as aware as I can of living with that, and being sure that what I'm sending out is helping to create the world that I want to live in.
That's beautiful. What is it that inspires you? What nourishes your soul?
Well, what nourishes my soul, one of the things that nourishes my soul is talking to you, because that's always very nourishing, and bouncing ideas off each other, but also just being two women, you know, in the age we are in as well, although I'm older than you are. Yeah. So that's nourishing. Also, being in nature. And now I live in the middle of the city, so being in nature may not look like some people might imagine at times. It's not necessarily that I'm going out of town, but even standing on my balcony and noticing the shapes of the flowers, and noticing the tree outside the front of my house, and the colours changing in the seasons, but trying to go out to actually walk in nature, to reconnect to the rhythms of nature. That really nourishes me as well. I'm going to the sea, particularly.
Absolutely. And because I love your photography. I love the way you zoom in, and it's like you get right into the heart of a flower when you take a picture of it. And it's like you zoom into nature through your photography, and there's a perspective that you give about, and I wonder that how that is as an approach to life, where your soulfulness is about you deeply going into what you do and who you are.
That's a very good way to put it. I like the way you described the photographs. I only discovered this not all that long ago, a couple of years ago, that I noticed that by photographing the flower, I started to see things that I just hadn't seen before. The intricacy of the patterns, the extraordinary creation that one flower is, or even a leaf. So that connected me in a different way with nature. So it
looks like it touches something in you. It looks like it touches something there's a resonance for you with that too.
Yes. So that feels, it feels to me like when I see that structure, it really makes me marvel at those small creations that are so extraordinary and intricate. And that's only a very tiny manifestation of nature on my balcony. There's so much more.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. So as a soulful woman and as a practitioner, what practices would you recommend to women and men in embracing a consciousness that's connected to the feminine in their lives on a daily basis?
Well, as I'm more or less bound to say, I think that taking notice of our dreams, learning to take the time in the morning. A lot of it, you know, some people say, oh, I don't dream. Of course, that's not true. We all dream. Or they say, well, I never remember my dreams. There are ways of connecting to your dreams, such as when you wake up in the morning, staying in the same position, keeping your eyes closed and just going back into the night. It helps us connect with information that is not so easily available in a waking state, so that that connects us to a deep intuition, a deep layer of information in ourselves, which I would call a feminine aspect of ourselves, women or men. And so that's a way of connecting with that part of ourselves. Again, I think that women generally are more connected to the earth because of the rhythms of our bodies, and because we are capable of bearing children. So we're more I don't know, influenced isn't the right word, but more in touch with those rhythms. But men can also be in touch with that aspect of themselves. That you see that in men who are very in touch with the earth, that they're very connected to the rhythms of nature. So that's another way that we can connect to the feminine in ourselves, both women and men.
Absolutely. I was in my last interview talking to Alexandra. We were talking about that we are all cyclical beings, that we can tune into the cycles of nature, but also our own cycles through the day. You know, I have a very specific rhythm that I follow through the day, where when I get up, I don't just rush out. I have very specific music that I love to listen. So I'm still in that dream state when I wake up. And then I love having a little lie down, a little afternoon nap, you know, just a little rest so that I'm not rushing to the next thing, especially if I'm going out that evening. So my cycle seems to be this thing of activity and getting out there, but also coming back in and resting, coming back to myself.
It's interesting you say that, because of a conversation I was just having yesterday with two people who, when they're waking up, he likes to snuggle and she picks up her phone straight away.
Right.
And she was saying that the reason she picks up her phone straight away is when she wakens up, she finds all these things that concern her and worry her or whatever, and that scrolling down Facebook or whatever on her phone distracts her from that tendency to worry. I'm just thinking, probably what I didn't say to her at the time, but would have been helpful, would we say, well, see, how can you go back into the night a little bit more? Because I noticed it myself.
Right.
If I, like you're saying, the necessity in the morning to really take the time for myself. I'm building up a new routine at the moment, but I noticed that, I noticed the tendency to look at my phone, like it's obsession with social media and leaving it in another room.
Yeah.
So I can't. So I really take time in the morning, like you said, to waken up, to come into the day, to recall my dreams, to meditate, and choose a soulful card.
It's something about that slowing down, because as soon as I know exactly what you mean. As soon as I look at my phone, something in my brain just goes shoop. It's like I'm in there already. The cogs are turning, and I just need to keep that slow pace, that wonderful, fuzzy, dreamy space that I wake up in, you know, not to rush out of it. And I know sometimes we do have to get up quickly and get on with things, but it's finding that balance, huh?
Well, I realize, you know, it's also a privilege in a way to be able to do it the way I do it, because if you have children, small children, for instance,
it's hard.
Then, you know, it's hard to take that time, really take that time for yourself. For both women and men, and people who are living high pressure lives and rushing out to work, etc. Even though, you know, okay, it may be difficult to make that time, but we need to do it, because we otherwise can get so out of balance.
We get totally. We get so fried. The brain gets fried. Yeah. And we lose touch with each other and with nature and with, you know, and with our children. You know, it's just, it becomes this whole thing of just going to the next thing and the next thing, rather than being with what is in the moment.
Just getting through the day rather than
getting through, and
getting to the end of the week. And I've always thought that, you know, this expression, thank God it's Friday.
Yeah.
I've always thought, that's so awful in a way, because you're rushing through life waiting for the weekend to come. And so I noticed that tendency myself, as you said, looking at my phone and getting drawn into that. And I need to consciously sort of pull back and put it away. And I think it's a really, really big challenge of these times.
Yeah, I think so too. So where, in terms of the times that we're in, where do you feel feminine consciousness for both men and women is evolving in the world today?
Well, I think there's a definite shift, like we were, you said at the beginning, there's a shift going on, a very strong shift from the old, what Rihanna Eisler called the dominator consciousness, where there's always a winner and a loser, and there's a hierarchy, and somebody has to be on top all the time. We're shifting that to a more partnership way of living with each other. It's not going without its kind of ups and downs. And there's a very strong backlash in ways to that change, and there is but as far as I'm concerned, it's definitely happening. But you see people like, I think the Me Too campaign is a manifestation of that. But again, you see within that women are coming out and saying this is, sort of saying this is how I have been hurt, this is how I have lost myself in the past, and that some coming in, we're coming more and more into our power and more able to speak out. And on the other hand, you have men responding to that, men who are ready and willing to take responsibility for the oppressive aspects of masculinity, but they've been socialized into that as well. But there are men who are willing enough to be allies to women in that, and there are men who aren't, who are very who react angrily and defensively, and there are women who react in an oppressive way to other women as well, and who tell them to shut up and sit down, etc., etc. So there's a sort of that's why I feel it's my work as well in myself to stay with the vision I have of a world in which there is a partnership consciousness, rather than having this getting caught up again in a kind of polarization. This is one danger. We end up in a different kind of polarization. So and the dominator system, it creates that kind of polarization. So I know your work is very much like this as well, that we're working towards a real sense of partnership between women and men, and between the masculine and the feminine. And that is, Rihanna Eisler wrote her book, The Chalice and the Blade, in 1988. I was just looking at the date, the year it was written. And she's talking about this kind of shift. It has been going on for a long time. And there are people who have who've evolved very far in this, and yet we have to hold our nerve as well. I think, and women, we need to both be able to live the feminine aspects of interconnectedness, and care for each other, and also at the same time be fierce in our standing up for the vision and trying to protect that against the backlash that is inevitably happening at the moment. And even women voting for the authoritarian male figure, who the tendency is to fall back into that, looking for an authoritarian male figure who will protect us in times that we're afraid. And that is the temptation all the time, to look for that somebody come and rescue me. So we're moving out of that into taking more, as women and men, taking more personal responsibility for our actions and our actions towards others and towards the earth. Did that answer that question?
That's beautiful, and I think this is a journey of consciousness that we're wanting to wake up. Personal responsibility starts with recognizing what I'm doing and the effect that has on others. And
Yes.
So we're kind of waking up around that. And I think there is a movement around that. And the internet has such a big role in that, where we can have access to information like videos like this and training programs within our own homes so easily, so quickly. So the final question, and maybe you've answered that partially, is what are your thoughts on the role of feminine consciousness in the world today? Maybe you've already addressed that, but if there's something you would like to add to that, where you think feminine consciousness is going in the world today.
Well, I think it's feminine consciousness is needed we need to develop that more in order to balance out the more toxic aspects. And I use that word with a certain amount of care, because it's been bandied about about toxic masculinity. I think it's not where feminine consciousness is needed in order to balance out the excesses that we've had of tending to go in the other direction. So being able to hold that sense of interconnection, of being part of a greater whole, and of having a creative capacity, which women have the potential. I don't have any children myself, but as women, we have the potential to create another human being. Of course, men have a role to play in that, but we carry children within our bodies. And so that capacity to create new life, we need to develop that further, to see that also as part of what we were just talking about, the responsibility. And to be able to use our power to create new life from the deep feminine, to create a new way of being with each other.
Yeah, and that could be in the form of children, but it could be birthing projects and birthing ideas and programs that are around healing on the planet and around raising awareness. Absolutely.
So that's more of it's not we're letting go, I think, of the old idea of the hero.
Yeah. And what's the new? If we're letting go of the idea of the hero, what is the new, do you think?
The new is not about, again, coming back to this real sense of living from an awareness of our direct effect on our environment, and how powerful that can be. Yeah. And it's not through carrying out huge acts of heroism or whatever. It's about everyday kindness and awareness of our fellow human beings, and of taking care of, very directly, of being stewards of the planet we're on. Yeah, indeed. Zelda, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything you want to close off with? Is there anything you want to say as we finish our interview? Well, I'd like to close off with just talking with you again about this. All this reminds me, and it makes me excited about the possibilities, and it makes me excited about the possibilities of us working together as well. So, and it's very good to have other people like you and other people I know on this journey together. Yeah. To bring balancing out the divine masculine and the divine feminine on the planet at this moment. We absolutely need our soul sisters and our soul brothers together to collaborate on this. Yeah, absolutely. And we can find you, if we want further information on you, we find you at your website, zeldahall.com. Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you, Zelda. am online. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of
Yes.
love. And
Lots
until,
of love to you too, dear
yeah.
Shushann.
Bye for
Talk
now.
again to you soon.